It goes on. Prayer was essential to Jesus Christ. And I want to read a few things. This one commentator, I don't even know who he is. He said this: Jesus is the dependent man, and this is just where we fail. He withdraws himself into the wilderness and prays, ever the dependent as the obedient and victorious man. Let's listen to what he says. That he is saying that it is Jesus' dependence upon God that wrought the obedience and the victory. Now, Matthew Poole writes this: we meet with Christ often, commending to us the duty of secret prayer by His own example. That is so convicting, because I am commending you to secret prayer by my word. But would I by my example? This is a sobering thing to preach. It says, we meet Christ often, compelling us to the duty of secret prayer by His own example, as He had done by His precept, and always choosing for it the most private and retired places, to teach us to go and to do likewise, often to pray to our Father, which seeth in secret, and His example more presses us, because we have much more business with God in prayer than He had. Do you know what he means by that? Matthew Poole is saying, we have more business to do with God in prayer than Jesus. Why? He says, for this reason: Jesus had no sins to confess, nor to beg pardon for, no need to ask for any sanctifying habits of grace. Jesus lived a life of prayer, and frequently it was His custom to participate in hidden prayer with His Father, and yet He had nothing of the need that we have. He had no need of confessing sin. He had no pardon to beg. He had no need to cry out for grace upon grace and mercy upon mercy like we do. Now, I want to finish with an example from Jesus in Mark chapter 1. Mark chapter 1, verse 29. I'm just going to begin to read. And immediately after they came out of the synagogue, they came into the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was lying sick with a fever, and immediately they spoke to Jesus about her. And He came to her and raised her up, taking her by the hand, and the fever left her, and she waited on them. Then evening came, after the sun had set, they began bringing to Him all who were ill and those who were demon-possessed, and the whole city had gathered at the door. And He healed many who were ill with various diseases, and casting out many demons, and He was not permitting the demons to speak, because they knew who He was. In the early morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went away to a secluded place, and was praying there. Simon and his companions searched for Him. They found Him and said to Him, "Everyone is looking for you." He said to them, "Let us go somewhere else." Now, briefly, what I want to put before you is, first of all, what's going on here. He was teaching in the synagogue. He was dealing with the demonic. He comes in from there. And Mark is fond of using this word immediately. The book of Mark, if you read it properly, when you're done, you should be wore out, because it's like snapshots of Jesus Christ and His activity. And there's no rest in it. Immediately. And so he says, immediately after they came out of the synagogue, they went to the house of Simon, and Simon's mother-in-law was sick, and He healed her. More virtue going out of him. Then when evening came, after the sun had set, they began bringing to Him all who were ill, demon-possessed. The whole city had gathered. Now let me explain to you. So when evening had come, they did this. Why? It was the Sabbath. I'm reminded when they were giving out free land in Oklahoma and the West, how they put everyone on a line. And there were literally hundreds of men on horseback and carriages and all such, because the moment the gun went off, they were all going to race to try to find their land. And people died in the stampede. I want you to know that there on the Sabbath, thousands of people are waiting for the night to fall, to make a Sabbath day journey, to make a journey to Him, to get to Him. And the moment it was proper, the moment it was time, the gun went off and the race began.